Wow. What's happening, guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm diving into Spike Lee's latest film, Da 5 Bloods, which is a Netflix original. You guys, you're not ready for this movie in the best way possible. It exceeded my expectations and then some. And yes, I'm very happy to say that this is definitely my favorite film of 2020 so far. My goodness, it's excellent. But before I get into why I loved Da 5 Bloods, if it's your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James. I talk about movies, TV shows, and even some news. I drop reviews like this all the time, guys, so you don't want to miss out. And if you love all of that, subscribe to the channel below and tap on that bell so you stay notified. Also, go ahead and smash that like button because it does a ton to help the channel out. And go ahead and comment down below and let me know what you think of Da 5 Bloods. You're gonna find out why I love this movie so much, and I really hope you enjoy it too, but we'll talk about it in the comments below. And if you missed it, I dropped my review for a Netflix original anime movie called A Whisker Away. It was actually pretty enjoyable. You can catch that review right at the top of the screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right into Da 5 Bloods. If you're unaware, Spike Lee is coming out with a new film, and it drops this weekend, and it is awesome. But if you also don't know too much about the story, let's go ahead and get into it a little bit. And yes, guys, this is spoiler free, don't worry. Da 5 Bloods surrounds 5 gentlemen, literally 5 Bloods, that's the group that they call themselves, and they are returning to Vietnam after, of course, returning safely from fighting in the war years ago. Now they're going to collect the remains of their fallen soldier and someone they fought alongside and loved. His name is Stormin Norman, played by Chadwick Boseman. But this is not just a recovery mission for him and to bring him back home. They want to go and recover gold that they found years ago as well, and what they want to do is split that gold up equally among themselves and give back to the community. This is where Spike Lee begins with the social commentary that he loves to add in, and I love it so much as well. This is reparations, guys, and man, I love that Spike Lee does not hold back on some of these awesome quips and dialogue back and forth, but we'll definitely get into that. Gosh, guys, I've really never seen a movie quite like this, and thank goodness for Spike Lee, because if not for him, we would be deprived of such an excellent bit of cinema. So let's get right into what I loved about Da 5 Bloods, and it starts at the top with the cast. Initially, I was interested because Spike Lee. Listen, I don't even need to see a trailer, just Spike Lee, new film, I'm in. But it's the cast here that really brings everything together. Now, let's go and start off with Chadwick Boseman, because a lot of people are going to be asking about him. He's in the film, but not as much as you think. Yes, he plays an important part. There's a very interesting line in the film that really describes what he meant to this group of soldiers. The line is, and I quote, "He was our Martin and our Malcolm." So at a time where, of course, the Vietnam War was getting a lot of pushback here in the United States and overseas, this was the voice of, I guess, reason and motivation for the crew to continue pushing forward. And I love that so much about his character, and trust me, Chadwick delivers a very strong performance in this film. However, there are stronger performances. Now, if you're a fan of The Wire on HBO, you're going to recognize 2 legendary actors from that show in this film, starting with Clarke Peters, who plays Otis, and he is the man. Oh my goodness, he has basically a very integral role for this group. He is the voice of reason, but I love his performance here, and he's so darn funny sometimes. And then you have Isiah Whitlock Jr., who plays Melvin, and boy, is he the carefree type in this film. The thing is, it's cool because he provides levity for some situations, and I also love that you can tell he's an incredibly selfless person, that he is willing to give it all up for his group of friends, and it's a pretty sincere performance by Isiah Whitlock Jr., and I really enjoyed it. And then there's Norm Lewis, who plays Eddie. He's got the money because he drops a freaking Amex card on the counter and says he's going to pay for every single room for his buddies in Vietnam. So the dude is basically living large, and what's great is that his character has a very humble moment later on in the film. I'm not going to say what happens, but you start to realize that his character is coming back down to earth a little bit, and Norm Lewis just does a great job at expressing all of that in this film. And there is one character in this movie that wasn't a part of the original group of soldiers that went to Vietnam, and that is David, played by Jonathan Majors. Listen, you guys, I was smiling like this when he came on screen, because I have been rooting for Jonathan Majors since I saw his role in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. Jonathan Majors deserves so many more leading roles, and he is a gem in Hollywood. I thought he got snubbed at the Oscars that year. He should have got supporting actor, and he is pretty excellent in this film. There's a wide range of emotions he goes through, and man, he's just so believable on screen. I can't wait to see him in much more, especially Lovecraft Country later this year. But yeah, he's the son of Paul, who is the last blood that we're going to talk about here. and he is the standout character and also the standout actor in this movie. Delroy Lindo plays, of course, Paul, and Paul is suffering from PTSD. He does not trust anyone overseas, and he's struggling with some regret about Storm and Norman. We learn about that later in the film, but there's something there that's continuing to bother him. He keeps saying he sees Norman's ghost, and his son says that, well, he screams Norman's name in his sleep. And there's a lot of baggage with this character, and Delroy Lindo delivers the powerhouse performance of the movie. Also very interesting to note, Spike Lee decided to go in the direction of making Paul a Trumper. He's a Trump supporter. He's got the hat. He has a very sharp bit of dialogue in the beginning of the film where a young boy is asking for money in Vietnam, and he says, "This is why we got to build the wall." And everyone else is like chastising him, saying, "Please don't tell me you voted for that fake bone spur president." And that was actually a very funny bit of dialogue. If you don't know about that, you should probably Google it. But the way it's woven into the narrative is incredible, and it's really smooth, and there are some motivations you learn about the character that make you sympathize with him. And the reason why I'm really singling out his performance so much is because I genuinely believe the Academy should just give him the Oscar right now for an acting award, whether it be supporting or lead actor. Oh my goodness gracious, there's this moment where he's on the boat with everybody and their Vietnam tour guide, Vin, and someone's trying to sell him a chicken, right? And if you see the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, it's an escalation of emotions and tension, and then eventually it just breaks, and Delroy Lindo just pops off, and it is just a back and forth exchange of words, both in English and in Vietnamese. Wow, in that moment alone, I said give him the Oscar, and then he has a monologue later on in the film, and I'm like, okay, wait a second, time out, guys. If you do not give him the Oscar, I'm going to riot. That was such a fantastic performance, and he deserves every bit of praise that's coming his way. But outside of the acting, there's a certain pace here that just gives us time to really understand and fall in love with certain members of our group. I could honestly just watch an entire movie of them having a conversation. Early on in the film, we see them at a Vietnamese bar, and they're just having a candid conversation. The back and forth is so contagious because it's the camaraderie that you just get to experience as an audience member, and I just wanted more. And just the way that we get to know each character as they build up to them going into the jungle and, of course, searching for Norman's remains and the gold is unreal, and that's really what makes the movie work so well. If the film just threw us into the jungle and the majority of the film was in the jungle, we would not, of course, be singing this film's praises. At least I wouldn't be. I think it would have been too rushed. And it's the fact that in the first half of the film, it felt as if we got individual moments and collective moments that really helped paint a beautiful picture by the end of the film. Now, there is one scene in particular that is my favorite scene, is when they're in the jungle and they're searching for Norman's remains and the gold. They all just kind of take time to hold hands and they just pray it out. And David is praying over the crew, but then you see Paul's emotion in his eyes. He's torn up. He is crying himself. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I think it's these visceral moments, the bits of raw emotion that just bleed off the screen, that make the Five Bloods, or that made the Five Bloods, I should say, such an enjoyable but also gut-wrenching experience. And of course, Spike Lee is taking the time in this movie to educate the audience and deliver some social commentary. In this instance, Spike opens up the movie with an interview with Muhammad Ali, and immediately you understand that when black soldiers came back from Vietnam, they didn't get the freedom that they fought so hard to preserve in the war. That's a shame, but it is the reality of those times. And unfortunately, you know, we still see racism and oppression here in the United States and across the world, but this is an eye-opener, especially for people who are coming to think that, oh yeah, this is just another war movie. This is gonna surprise them. And what I love about The Five Bloods is that Spike Lee is showing us the war through the eyes of black soldiers instead of what we're used to seeing in movies like Saving Private Ryan, which is still a good film. But the thing is, a lot of those war movies that we're accustomed to calling great have a predominantly white cast, and our main group here are, well, black soldiers, and it's beautiful. And I love that Spike Lee decided to go this route and choose a wartime backdrop for a bigger issue, which is, yes, we're dealing in this movie with the war on Vietnam, but we're also dealing with the struggle in the United States and beyond when it comes to race issues. And man, Spike Lee is just masterful. If you know me, if you've been following this channel, guys, you know I'm a sucker for cinematography, right? And this is just beautiful. This is the same cinematographer, if I'm not mistaken, that did Drive, and Drive is another beautifully shot film. But here, the way the aspect ratio is played with, for example, when it goes from widescreen to 4:3, is just so clean. And I love that there's film grain added on the 4:3 scenes, which are the flashback scenes. And then there are some scenes that unfold through the lens of Eddie's handheld camera, which includes very, old footage and film, and there's like a film burn on the screen, and then you see some grain. It is so authentic, it feels so good, and I don't know what it is, but I was marveling at all these landscape shots, and goodness gracious, it's a beautiful looking film. Oh, and shout out to the soundtrack choices here. Oh my goodness, the music complemented everything on screen perfectly, and sometimes I found myself understanding the situation might have been really intense and the music was a little bit more chill, but it's the lyrics you have to pay attention to, guys. So I really do think you need to just listen to the music. All right, we spent the last 6 or 7 minutes talking about how great this film is. And yes, while I love this movie, there are maybe a couple things that didn't necessarily hit the mark. They weren't awful and they didn't break the movie for me, but they weren't as excellent as the rest of the film. See, our supporting cast outside of our main group wasn't that great. Now, I'm not talking about Jonathan Majors and I'm not talking about Chadwick Boseman. I'm talking about this group that basically goes to try and disengage landmines. Yes, it sounds weird, but trust me, they play a big role in this film. That group is led by Paul Walter Hauser, Melanie Thierry, and Jasper Pakonen, and they pop in and out of the film. I just don't buy their roles as much, and I don't know if it's because of their line delivery or just maybe the script wasn't catering to them, but for me it felt like their scenes didn't have as much weight to them as every other scene. And then there's Jean Reno, who you saw in the trailer, who plays DeRoche, and he's gonna help this group basically get the gold out of the jungle. That's all I'll say about that. And the thing is, I love Jean Reno, and don't get me wrong, I think he's serviceable in this role, but I don't know, maybe they didn't use too much of him and that's why I didn't really care to see him on screen, but it just felt like he was kind of there in some moments, and that was taking away from the quality that we were used to seeing all the way up to that point. But overall, you guys, Da 5 Bloods is a 5-star movie. This is an excellent film. There's excellent filmmaking present, and the acting here is worthy of every bit of praise. I absolutely loved my time with this film, and when it ended, I thought, wait, no, I want more. I want more with this story. So what I'm gonna have to do is go back and rewatch the movie again. I've never seen a movie, let alone a war movie, quite like this, and we've never gotten a Spike Lee movie like this either. And a lot of people are gonna ask me, where does this rank for you in Spike Lee movies? Well, of the ones I've seen, it's right up there with Do the Right Thing. Do the Right Thing is still my favorite film of Spike Lee's, but it's right behind it. Yes, Da 5 Bloods is above BlacKkKlansman. Inside Man, she's gotta have it. I'm beside myself. At the end of this film, I did what I did at the beginning of this review, and I started clapping. I have not clapped for a 2020 release at home until today with Da 5 Bloods. Well, you guys, there you have it. That's what I think about Da 5 Bloods. It is an excellent film that demands your attention, and really, you should sit down and just dive into the story. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and this is why we love, well, going to the movie theaters. Man, I wish we could see this on the big screen. And thank you so much to Netflix for sending me this link early. Guys, if you want to see even more reviews just like this, again, don't forget to go ahead, hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Tap on the bell right next to it and smash that like button. It does a ton to help the channel. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. You guys are blowing my mind. I'm so grateful for this community. And get loud in the comments below, guys. Let me know what you think of the film when you see it. Alrighty, y'all, I'm gonna go check out some more new releases. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.